The audio and visual is working. I only see Van Staden here.
Already, you are clear. We can hear you and we can see you.
Thank you very much. Do you like my tie? Is it good?
Please, please.
Drama.
There has to be some drama. It'd be so boring otherwise. Parliament life. Think about it.
Or
Hey, morning, Honorable Mosquito. I love your tie. I love your tie.
Thank you, Madlala.
Testing for sound. 1, 2, 3. Testing for sound.
You're loud and clear, Chief Whip of the opposition party. Loud and clear.
Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Morning and welcome to all members that have logged onto this virtual mini-plenary session of the National Assembly. There will firstly be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. Honourable members, before we proceed, I would like to remind you that the virtual mini-plenary is deemed to be in the precinct of Parliament and constitutes a meeting of the National Assembly for debating purposes only. In addition to the rules of virtual sittings, the rules of the National Assembly, including the rules of debate, apply. Members enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in a sitting of the National Assembly. Members should equally note that anything said in the virtual platform is deemed to have been said to the House and may be ruled upon. All members who have logged in shall be considered to be present and are requested to mute their microphones and only unmute when recognized to speak. This is because the mics are very sensitive and will pick up noise which might disturb the attention of other members. When recognized to speak, please unmute your microphone and where connectivity permits, connect your video. Members may make use of the icons on the bar at the bottom of their screens, which has an option that allows a member to put up their hand to raise a point of order. The Secretariat will assist in alerting the Chair to the members requesting to speak. When using the virtual system, members are urged, however, to refrain or desist from unnecessary points of order or interjections. Lastly, I wish to remind you that we are meeting in a mini-plenary session and therefore any decisions that must be taken as a consequence of these debates and declarations will be taken in a full plenary session of the Assembly. Before I proceed, I see a hand of the Honourable Skhosana. Honourable Skhosana.
Thank you, Chair. And I hope today the proceedings will go according to a plan, a maiden speech from Dr. Korenov. Thank you.
Thank you. We will listen to that when we get there. The first order, honourable members, of the day is the consideration of report of the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture on an oversight visit to the Northwest Province from the 24th to the 28th of February 2025. I now recognise the Honourable Pule to introduce the report. Honourable Pule, you're not yet unmuted.
Honourable Chairperson, thank you very much. Honourable Chairperson, this report that we are presenting today provides an account of the committee's engagements and findings regarding the implementation of the blended finance scheme in the Northwest. The committee's oversight mandate is derived from Section 55, subsection 2 of the Constitution and Rule 227 of the National Assembly, in line with Rule 338 of the National Assembly. The committee's report dated the 1st of April 2025 is hereby presented for the consideration of this August House. It is a privilege for me to do so on behalf of the committee. The multi-party committee chair delegation, led by myself as chairperson, visited various project sites across 3 district municipalities in the Northwest. We were accompanied by the Department of Agriculture, both at national and at provincial level, the Land Bank, MPLs, and the MEC. Critically, we engaged directly with farmers and beneficiaries on the ground. During the oversight, the committee observed both encouraging successes and significant challenges faced by farmers in the province. Some of the success stories were about emerging Black farmers thriving with support from the blended finance scheme. One of those is the Lamas Bonsmara farmer near Revelo, who is thriving with the assistance from the scheme. He expanded his operation to over 4,000 hectares and built a successful Bonsmara cattle stud herd of 450. He has created employment to a number of people and also mentors local subsistence farmers by lending out quality bulls. We also observed infrastructure and resource challenges, limited support and mentorship to emerging farmers, financial and operational constraints due to slow turnaround times for loan approvals by the Land Bank. Arising from the observation, the committee makes the following recommendations to the executive. That they strengthen infrastructure and input support, enhance extension services and oversight for emerging farmers, improve financial access and responsiveness by the Land Bank. In conclusion, Chairperson, Honorable Chair, the oversight visit to the Northwest allowed the committee difficulties in our agriculture support initiatives. With proper support, many emerging farmers would transform their businesses and contribute to food security and job creation. On behalf of the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, I hereby table this oversight report for consideration of the House. We trust that the recommendations contained in the report will receive due attention in order to strengthen our support for farmers and improve the implementation of the blended finance scheme. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Pule. I now recognize the Honorable Smith.
Thank you, Honorable Honorable Health Chair, sorry. Honorable members and fellow South Africans. Today I rise to reflect on the recent oversight visit conducted by the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture to the Northwest Province. Our focus was the blended finance scheme, a program designed to support the commercialization of Black farmers by combining government grants with loans facilitated by the Land Bank. The vision behind the blended finance scheme is intended to drive transformation in agriculture by empowering historically disadvantaged farmers to enter and compete in the commercial farming sector. However, what we witnessed on the ground painted a troubling picture of inefficiency, poor coordination, questionable individuals benefiting, and a lack of accountability. During our engagement with the blended finance scheme beneficiaries, it became abundantly clear that while some support has been extended, the systematic challenges far outweigh the successes. Farmers spoke of delayed funding, disbursements, inadequate technical support, the absence of mechanization and irrigation infrastructure, and a complete breakdown in coordination between provincial departments, the National Department of Agriculture, and the Land Bank. In some cases, farmers had received grants but were left without follow-up support or market access. This is not just a failure of implementation. It is the failure of the previous government. Public funds are being invested with minimal oversight, and the very farmers the scheme aimed to support are left vulnerable, disillusioned, and in some cases worse off than before. Honourable members, the Democratic Alliance has long warned of the dangers of poor management development finance. Under the leadership of Minister John Steenhuisen, the DA's vision for agriculture is built on a foundation of accountability, efficiency, and measurable impact. Minister Steenhuisen has made it clear that empowerment must be about outcomes, not just intentions. It must be about ensuring that every rand spent empowers farmers of all races, creates jobs, and builds a more inclusive economy. The DA's policy on agricultural development is rooted in three core principles. Firstly, transparency. We need to ensure that all the blended finance scheme funding is subjected to rigorous public reporting. Secondly, targeted support. The DA believes that throwing money at problems without proper planning and support is a recipe for failure. That is why we need to restructure the blended finance scheme to include a mandatory pre- and post-funding support package, including access to mechanization, technical advice, and market linkage services. Thirdly, accountability and the reform of the land bank. The land bank can no longer operate in isolation. It must be transformed into a responsive, development-driven institution. Honourable members, our oversight visit revealed the urgency of reform, but it also reaffirmed our belief in the potential of agriculture to drive inclusive growth. With the right policies, leadership, and political will, we can transform rural communities and build a thriving agricultural economy. The Democratic Alliance stands ready to lead this process. Under Minister John Steenhuisen's leadership, we are committed to ensuring that the blended finance scheme works for everyone, not just on paper, but in the lives of every farmer. We do support the report. I thank you.
Thank you. The next party to participate is the MK, on their behalf by a member Koornoff, but anyone from the MK who is to participate, please proceed.
Greetings, Chair. As MK, in 1852, a meeting between King Squad and Pete Joubert agreed that a black man is a landlord and a white man is a migrant, and the white man must wait 100 years before they can buy land in South Africa. But in 1913, after 60 years, a white regime took the land of the native tribes. This is contained in 1905 First Census document on the native tribes of Transvaal, native tribes of Natal, native tribes of Cape Colony. Since then, up to date, it is not yet back. We visited the Daung Primary Co-op where we found Mr. Lata at Yankam Farm. We discovered that the evaluation of the farm was overpriced due to misrepresentation of evaluation report. He was given first generation pivot irrigation system, which is very old and suffers a lot of breakdown. The land where he is planting retains a lot of water instead of draining it out, and it leads to the destruction of crops. They are farming pecan nuts and give produce to white farmers who control overseas market. Mr. Lata is involved in creating opportunities for the intern students to come and work on his farm to gain practical experience, but he doesn't get money to render this service from the department. COVID-19 was a reason he didn't do well. Daung irrigation scheme, we visited this co-op and we found a lot of men and women who are participating in the program with an aim to make a living. We found a white farmer who is helping them with business plan and train the workers and solicit market for their produce of pecan nuts. We discovered that the off-takers only want to work with this white man. We then learned that he charges money for doing this work, and it's a loan which the group must still pay it back, which they are using to pay him. We learned also that this time they used the funding scheme on tribal land, which was a good experiment, which we are encouraging because farmers, they collude to sell their land knowing that there is money, whereas we could save money and maximize on production. We then visited Amway Trading. We met a woman who bought a farm, the white farm from a white farming community. She knew nothing about poultry. She depended on white farmer. The farm was doing well under their management. She suffered many losses and she would be given chicks and would be told that she must vaccinate them upon arrival, she would then suffer many deaths on the way coming to her farm, and others would die hours after delivery. This would be counted as negative in terms of losses. The fact that she was not trained worked against her. She also suffered breaks in, stealing of chickens due to nearby informal settlement. The issue of funding turnaround period is the main problem from the department side. The white farmers would take a piece of land and do their own farming activities under pretense that they are helping her whilst they are making money in her farm. We then went to Lamusa farm, Ponsmara. This farmer is black and successful and is one of the shining example. He's having his staff who have many years with him. We saw his cattle. He is the beef cattle farming region. He is a former miner but loves farming. We visited Mr. Mulamu, who is a self-sufficient but is not getting any support in terms of finance. We visited Lupafo Burdere. This is a high-intensive commercial farmer. He lost his harvest due to heavy rainfalls. Furthermore, he could not get help from the government. He ended up selling one of the food security farm, and it
Thank
was
you,
bought
Honorable
by patient vultures, and who are going to do buffalo farming in his farm. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Next up is the Honorable Montwedi.
Thank you very much, Chair. Part and parcel of resolving food insecurity and reviving the agrarian economy in South Africa is the expropriation of land without compensation. Whatever Donald Trump says, or the illiterate minister entrusted with a portfolio he does not understand, will expropriate land without compensation. We will subsidize black farmers not only to feed the nation, but to reclaim our place in the global trade of agriculture. The President and Commander will lead
Honorable Montwedi, just hold on for a moment. Honorable Basson, you are unmuted, and you've not been asked to be recognized. Please remain muted until recognized. Honorable Montwedi, please proceed.
Should I start, Chair?
No, we heard you up to where you were. Please proceed.
House Chair, we went on oversight visit to the Northwest Province to assess land bank funded projects through the blended finance scheme. We will focus here on 2 early projects under the ANC and the 2 recent transactions under the DA Minister John Steysen that expose a crisis in how the land bank mismanages public funds meant to uplift black farmers. The Ditaung Agricultural Cooperative, run by the latter family, received 55 million for a farm whose true value was less than 40 million. The bank relied on flawed valuation that overstated the extent of the pecan nut production and ignored broken irrigation and dysfunctional drainage system. Whereas 15 million for mechanization, only for the company to receive an old John Deere tractor 3130 and 2 broken harvesters. In Potchefstroom, Amway Trading, a 100% woman-owned enterprise was given 850 hectare farm to run a 5-hectare broiler facility. Again, a mismatch that speaks to incompetency. Mortality rates rose to 10%, and the off-taker Supreme abandoned the farm after the land bank failed to refurbish the poultry houses after 3 years. Recent projects in Taung under the GNU DA Minister funded lucerne production in Busele, Retuseng, and Pudumo North reveal how the land bank transferred funds directly to a mentors company, Agri-Reform, without farmers' consent. Farmers to this day remain unaware of how much was spent and how much is withheld. One white contractor, Terradem, monopolizes the market, forcing farmers to sell at exploitative terms while local farmers are excluded from cutting, rigging, and transporting and baling opportunities. As the EFF, to the market. We welcome the commitment from the Land Bank CEO and the Director General of the Department of Agriculture to act, but the systematic failures persist. Delayed input funding, no technical support, and no transparency. We call for a full forensic investigations into the first 5 transactions of the blended finance scheme and urge the Department of Agriculture to finalize its agreement with SEDFA to serve smallholder farmers effectively and take deliberate action to implement all poultry projects through the IDC, as they have demonstrated serious capacity in delivering poultry-related projects. The EFF supported this report. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Sebekulu from the IFP. Honorable members from the IFP, I've been alerted that the Honorable Sebekula is not on the platform. Or any of the other IFP members going to participate in the debate?
House Chairperson, it's Honorable Van der Merwe here. Please, will you allow me just 1 second to see where Honorable Sebekula is? And if he's not online, I will read the declaration on his behalf. Then I'll
Thank
come
you.
after the
Thank you. I think we'll proceed to the PA and then we'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then I recognize the Honorable Matopa.
Chair, if you permit, can I keep my video down due to poor connectivity?
Yes, that's fine.
Honorable House Chair, members of Parliament, fellow South Africans, the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture undertook an oversight visit to the Northwest Province from the 24th to the 28th of February 2025 to assess the state of agricultural development, challenges faced by emerging farmers, and the effectiveness of government interventions in the sector. As documented in the report tabled on the 1st April 2025, the findings provide critical insights into the agricultural landscape. The committee observed key areas requiring urgent attention, including financial and technical support for emerging farmers, infrastructure development, access to markets, and the impact of climate change on agriculture. Engagement with stakeholders highlighted the need for enhanced collaboration between government departments, private sector partners, and local farming communities to ensure sustainable growth. Due to these findings, this House acknowledges the importance of implementing the recommendations outlined in the report to strengthen agricultural resilience and food security in the Northwest Province. We call upon all relevant stakeholders to work collectively in addressing the challenges identified and to ensure that the agricultural sector remains a pillar of economic development and job creation. Let us reaffirm our commitment to supporting emerging farmers, improving agricultural policies, and fostering innovation within the sector. As the Patriotic Alliance, we support the recommendations. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Matopa. I'm returning to the IFP.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. I will read the input of Inkosi Sebekula. House
proceed.
Chairperson, thank you. House Chair, state allocated funding must be properly accounted for, underscoring the critical importance of oversight visits. These visits are a key mechanism for ensuring that projects are implemented effectively and to ensure that timely interventions can prevent the mismanagement of funds and fruitless expenditure. This oversight visit demonstrated the progress being made in expanding access to affordable finance for Black producers and in building a critical mass of Black commercial producers who own and control key segments of the agricultural value chain. The IFP commends the commendable work of Mr. Lata, who, in addition to being a farmer, selflessly mentors other farmers and agricultural graduates at no cost. This embodies one of the IFP's core values, that of solidarity. However, the IFP is concerned that a strategic partner such as the Land Bank lacks the technical expertise necessary to conduct the thorough due diligence on irrigation infrastructure and farm production capacity. This gap must be addressed urgently. The IFP believes that implementation weaknesses in the blended finance schemes and their misalignment with the agriculture and agri-processing master plan requires immediate and coordinated intervention. In consideration of these issues we have raised, the IFP accepts the report. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Mabena, please ensure that you remain muted. The next speaker is the Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. This visit to the Northwest Province with the Department or the Portfolio Committee of Agriculture is one which I didn't attend as I was engaged elsewhere. But it refers to the whole system of blended finance. Now, that's a nice way actually to say that some money is just donated to the farmer and some money has to be paid back at the preferred interest rate. Now, if one reads through the report, it's clear what immense amount of money goes into farming. It's land, which people think of obviously, but it's also the equipment and also the working capital. And it's incredibly complicated to make a financial success of farming. The technical part of actually raising the crops or the stock, that is just the beginning. To operate the finances, that is actually the part which people find very difficult. Now, farmers get assistance, emerging farmers, from the land bank and the provincial departments, but that is not coordinated very well, and it doesn't come in time, which makes it very difficult for the farmers to perform. Now, if one has to conclude within 2 minutes, it would be to say that if the state has to be involved in farming, it should be with step-by-step involvement in what actually happens on the farm, and then get all the money back by way of a loan, rather than just throwing money into a bottomless pit, bottomless well, without giving the requisite technical and financial assistance, management assistance and technical farming assistance. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Trollip, you are now recognized.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. First of all, I'd like to commend the have compiled, and if the report is taken care of after being passed by this sitting, and if the necessary reactions go with it, I think it'll go a long way to improving the current blended finance scheme. However, I'd like to say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and once again on our oversight visit, we discovered that there are many good intentions, but they are complicated by the fact that the role players and stakeholders don't always collaborate and cooperate effectively, which hinders the objective of the department for rural development, land reform, and agricultural production improvement and transformation. So I believe that the blended finance scheme holds potential, and it's probably better than the precursor programs and legislation, but there needs to be significantly better coordination, cooperation, and accountability between all the stakeholders and the role players. Chair, there are a couple of fundamentals that have to be improved. First of all, the identification of appropriate beneficiaries is crucial. We've seen that the scheme is trying to assist communal farmers, subsistence farmers, small-scale farmers, commercial farmers, and even mega farmers. Now, we uncovered or discovered that some of the processes of valuating properties to be acquired are flawed. The acquisition processes take a long time, and often it appears that the department has ended up buying a lemon and handing it over to beneficiaries who just can't make a go of it. We also see that there are problems with capitalization and pre- and post-settlement support. But we did see some examples of some success, and we want to commend that. Where you identify the proper beneficiary and you give them the proper support, and they've been through the process of acquiring land through PLUS and then being given blended finance, it does work. And there were some examples of success in that regard. But the land bank applications take too long to agree. And we
Thank
saw
you, Honorable
farms
Trollip. Unfortunately,
planted tirelessly with great crops.
Thank you, Honorable Trollip. The next speaker, I see the Honorable Thring. Is it you who will participate on behalf of the ICDP?
Thank you, Chair. No, we are participating in the next debate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Then is there somebody on behalf of the UDM? If not, then I move on to RISE. The ATM. Al-Jamaa. The NCC.
Chair, did you just skip Bossa?
Oh, my apologies. I did, Honorable Clausen Webster.
We
Please,
won't be declaring on this one, but I just wanted to make
you
sure
still
that
want
we
to
are.
be recognized.
We must
You're
be
welcome.
recognized.
Thank you. I was at the NCC, the UIT, then I move on to the Honorable Davids.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members on the platform. Honorable members, the African National Congress rise in full support of the Portfolio Committee on Agricultural Support following its oversight visit to the Northwest Province. This report highlighted both the encouraging progress and the serious challenges in our ongoing effort to transform and develop agriculture in our rural areas. It reaffirms the truth at the heart of the ANC policies, that land reform and support for emerging farmers are not only about correcting historical injustice, but about unlocking the economical potential of our people and our countryside. From the very beginning, the ANC has understood that true freedom for our people requires socio-economic transformation in the rural economy. Our vision is rooted in our history and guiding documents. The Freedom Charter boldly declared that the land shall be shared amongst those who work it, and directed that the state shall help the peasants with implements and tractors and dams to save the soil and assist the thrillers. This principle that those who work the land must be empowered to own it and farm it successfully has guided us through the decades. Today, it finds expressions in policies like the National Development Plan, which envision an integrated and inclusive rural economy achieved through successful land reform, expanding infrastructure, and agricultural growth. The ANC's commitments to radical economic transformation means we are determined to fundamentally alter ownership and production patterns in agriculture, ensuring that Black South Africans become not just workers on the land, but owners, decision makers, and beneficiaries in more inclusive agricultural economy. During the oversight visit to the Northwest, we were inspired by examples of the blended finance scheme in action, changing lives on the ground. At Lama's Bosmara farm in Taung, owned by Mr. Malamu, the impact of our support was unmistakable. Through BFS assistance, Mr. Malam was able to expand his operations to over 4,000 hectares, now running a thriving Bosmara cattle stud, which around 450 heads of cattle. He has 8 permanent employees drawn from local communities and even allows his workers to keep their own livestock on the farm. In the true spirit of Ubuntu, he lends bulls from his stud to subsistent farmers to improve their heads and mentor young agricultural students gaining experience on his farm. The delegation applauded Mr. Malamu for his hard work and its success, including the assistance he offers to uplift others. His story is a shining example of what is possible when emerging Black farmers are given the necessary support to commercialize and govern. Similarly, at Mulending Business Enterprise, 100% Black-owned family farming business, we saw the fruits of the blended finance scheme, coupled with the family determination. The Mulamu family, with its 1,059 hectares of maize and sunflower fields and livestock herd, access about 5.23 million in blended grant and loan funding. This support enabled them to invest in production inputs, a new tracker, a quality Bosmara cattle, sheep, and goats. They have since repaid their initial loan, and secure additional finance to expand operations, demonstrating both responsibility and ambition. Today, Molendi Enterprise provides employment to local farm workers and produce grains and livestock that contribute to food security. These success stories underscore the ANC-led government's commitment to building a new cohort of Black commercial farmers and transform the agricultural landscape in line with our policies. However, honorable members, Our oversight also laid bare the serious challenges that continue to undermine emerging farmers and which this report rightly highlights. Infrastructure backlogs and insufficient support are holding back many of our farmers. At Mulending, for example, the farm lacks irrigation, not for lack of water, but due to the prohibitive cost of electricity to pump it. Worse still, the access road to the farm has been left in disrepair for years. Mr. Molamu has pleaded with the municipality numerous times to fix the road, but without success. In fact, our committee's allocation struggle to reach the farm due to the poor road conditions. This is unacceptable. It starkly reminds us that if we do not provide basic infrastructure like roads, electricity, and water, we are setting up our farmers for failure. The ANC government must and will intensify efforts to eliminate these backlogs in rural infrastructure maintenance and development. Our glaring challenges is limited and extensive support available to emerging and subsistence farmers. We found that 2 of the new farmers received inadequate technical guidance. In some areas, farmers should be getting support from government extension officers and veterinarians have been left to fend for themselves. The report notes that subsistence farmers have even forced to use portions of their production loans and profits to pay for private mentors and advisors because the promised pre and post funding support was not effectively provided. This situation is completely. The ANC declares this oversight report and we support it.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable members, that concludes this debate. Before we move on, let me just clarify. Although these items on the order paper today is dealt with by way of declarations, the table staff assisted before today to get an indication of which parties would be participating. So if your party is not called, it's because the table staff got an indication, received an indication that you won't be participating. If you nonetheless, because it is declarations, in the meantime decide that you want to, and you've not been called, just draw my attention to that fact, please. So we move on to the second order, which is the consideration of the report of the Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition on the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition's fourth quarter financial and non-financial performance for the 2023-2024 financial year. To introduce the report, I call on the Honorable Masina.
Thank you very much, House Chair. The Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition is tasked with the responsibility of overseeing the DTIC and its entities. The committee has engaged the department and on the utilization of the funds for 2024-25 financial year to ensure that it achieves its mandate and objective of inclusive growth and job creation. During the engagement with the department, the committee scrutinized the use of about 10.7 billion annual budget for the financial year. For the fourth quarter, the department had achieved 75.2% of its non-financial performance target, as well as spent 99.5% of its budget. The committee emphasized the importance of using public procurement and public infrastructure development to drive localization, given these tools could drive domestic demand if used properly. Furthermore, procurement consideration should factor in the negative impact on the retention and the creation of jobs and relatively competitive of these sectors when goods are imported rather than when locally manufactured. Therefore, we acknowledge that the job creation potential for small, medium, micro enterprises, it called on the DTIC and the relevant department to ensure that regulatory red tape did not hinder SMMEs, particularly in the township and rural economies, from effectively participating in public procurement contracts, amongst others. Notwithstanding the importance of existing industries in the economy, it urged government to support the development of new and labor-absorbing industries, particularly in the creative and e-commerce sector, which have a potential to create a number of jobs. Given the slow progress in terms of the economic transformation, particularly in terms of ownership, control, and management pattern, it emphasized the structural transformation of the economy is central to the achievement of growth. It employed the DTIC to coordinate the work of all spheres of government to ensure that this dream is realized. In terms of intra-Africa trade, the committee employed the DTIC to progressively ensure that the full implementation of agreement such as trade facilitation initiative, elimination of non-tariff barriers to maximize opportunities offered through agreement, such as increased value addition. In terms of the DTIC non-financial performance, the committee was concerned by the relative number of targets that have not been achieved. The DTIC should also ensure that the performance indicators and targets are aligned with the developmental goals of a sustainable growth, economic and spatial quality, and significantly contribute towards the structural challenges and job creation. Informed by the committee's deliberation, the committee recommends that the House requests the Minister of Trade and Industry should consider engaging the Minister of Finance as well as the Minister of Small Business, as well as other relevant ministries to facilitate the streamlining of regulatory processes that hinder small, medium, micro enterprises from effectively participating in the public procurement space. I present this fourth quarter report for 2023 financial year of the Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition for the House for consideration. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Masina. Next up is the Honorable Chance.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Minister Tau presented this report on the 10th of September last year, which was 9 months ago, virtually. This was the first time the committee was able to compare the department's approach to fulfilling its mandate in the 7th administration to what it had achieved at the end of the 6th administration. It is in this context that the Portfolio Committee's report, which we are considering today, must be assessed. Soon after Minister Tau and his deputy's appointment, the department reasserted itself as co-chair of government's economic cluster, along with the Department of Transport. Taken together, these two departments direct and oversee the muscles and skeleton of our economy, the functioning of which are critical to South Africa for it to escape years of dysfunction, low economic growth, and catastrophically high unemployment. Without a sound industrial base and the network industries to support it, particularly roads, rails, and ports, the Government of National Unity will struggle to place South Africa on a firm footing to compete globally and correct the mistakes of the past. Minister Tau, in presenting the revised department strategic plan on the 22nd of April this year, said a priority was to unblock obstacles that would allow investment to flow and avoid the silo mentality that hinders the formation of and implementation of growth-orientated policies. To fire on all cylinders, all departments in the economic cluster need a common goal and the means to achieve it. This was a theme he first outlined last September when presenting the department's performance. On reading the committee report, one gets a distinct sense of déjà vu. The issues that faced the department a year ago are repeated today. These include promoting structural transformation, broadening participation in the economy to strengthen economic development, improving the skills and capabilities of the department, and improving state entities and civil society to affect economic development. The department had 109 targets for that quarter, 27 of which were not achieved. A legacy of the Ibrahim Patel term of office is that everything was measured. The fact that 75% of the targets were achieved hides the fact that the underlying measures of the economy painted a picture of malaise rather than health, of increasing poverty, not broadening prosperity. Of the target of 250 DTIC success stories profiled through case studies, 190 were achieved. Minister Patel always told a good story, however much of the truth it left out. In terms of the committee's reviews on the department's performance, there was consensus that the DTIC should play a key role in advocating for policy coordination between macroeconomic and industrial policies, with industrial policy as the basis for economic development. For the period 2019 to 2023, and I quote from the report, the DTIC informed the committee that FDI was 1.5 trillion rand. However, only 15,000 jobs have been created, which is a major concern to the committee, close quote. Growth is better than no growth, but jobless growth does not attest to a regulatory landscape which promotes investment in machines and technology rather than people. The committee was keen to learn more about the department and how it would achieve growth in the special economic zones, townships, and the creative industries, all of which have the potential to add significantly to exports and job creation. These remain priorities for the committee, but the department has yet to demonstrate it has any new approaches that define itself beyond well-worn platitudes. Members of the committee suggested that the SEZs could be experimental testbeds for relaxing labour and BE regulations to see if this encouraged greater investment, particularly for foreign-owned companies. The committee placed great emphasis on the need to encourage public procurement from local suppliers, especially SMMEs, while some of us cautioned that this could lead to increased costs and wasteful expenditure. We all agree that a priority for government was to overhaul road, rail, and port infrastructure. Continuing the theme of supporting SMMEs, the committee called on the department to collaborate with the Department of Small Business Development to review the effectiveness of many of the funding instruments available across government. It also emphasized the importance of non-financial support measures and the role of the private sector in this regard. Another focus of the committee was the need to measure the impact and return on investment through expenditure on the incentives programs, which consume nearly half of the department's budget. A great deal of attention was paid to the slow operationalization of the Africa Free Trade Agreement. African countries buy the bulk of our exports, and with increasing protectionism looming from many of our traditional markets, the committee was rightly concerned that more needs to be done to boost exports to Africa. The committee's report is a snapshot of the transition from the 6th to the 7th administration. Members are cautiously optimistic that the new ministerial interdepartmental team has the vision and determination to lead South Africa to the economic uplands where all our citizens earnestly wish to reside. I thank you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker on behalf of the MK in this debate?
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much.
Please
The
proceed.
MK Party, as a voice of the economically marginalized, politically excluded, expresses serious reservations on this report. We have not come to embrace performance indicators. We have come to expose betrayal of our people. This report, like many before it, reflects a state machinery that has become estranged from the objective reality of the oppressed. It is a tribute of policy stagnation and economic cowardice. We reject this report in its entirety as it is a monument of technocratic failure, elite appeasement, and ongoing economic dispossession of the black majority. The percentage achievements and expenditure rate expressed mean nothing to the unemployed youth in KwaMashu, the informal trader in Sebokeng, and the factory worker who hasn't seen a pay rise in years. Yet we have a department that defends profits of foreign companies and subsidizes them with public funds, while SMMEs are suffocated by red tape and systematic neglect. This report tells us how many workshops were held, how many regulations were considered, and how many jobs were supported. It says nothing about the hunger of the people in Kliptown and Lusikisiki, the factory closure at Newcastle, and the dreams deferred in Khayelitsha. This government, and this department in particular, has abandoned the vision of liberation struggle. The Black Industrialist Program has become nothing more than a gravy train for politically connected elites. This is not transformation for the masses, but a boardroom PE. It is a document of marginalism, not revolution. Let history record that the MK Party stood firm and said, we demand full realization of the revolutionary promise for which many of our comrades laid down their lives. This report is merely a compliance to an agenda that has no progressive significance to the real challenge that needs to be addressed. And I dare to ask, how many township entrepreneurs have seen transformation? How many young people graduate? How many young graduates have found meaningful work? Has rural women running cooperatives received market access and state support? The answer is a glaring no. Today, the elites are replacing oppressors. DTIC offers billions to auto giants while township cooperatives drown in bureaucracy. The DTIC claims to support township economies, yet billions in incentive flows to conglomerates, not cooperatives. The very same people that Umkhonto has fought to liberate remain blocked out of the economy. They become spectators in a democracy that they died to build. So this report reminds us that without radical policy shifts, the DTIC will remain an institution of compliance, not transformation. The MK Party rejects token reforms and calls for a revolutionary industrial policy, one that dismantles colonial power and restores the wealth of the nation to its rightful owners. Let history remember that the first bullets fired by MK Party in 1961 were aimed not just at apartheid's past laws, but its economic configuration, exploitation of labor, land disposition, and imperialism. The report continues to defend those foundations with spreadsheets and slogans. We stand for a new economy owned by the people, built by the people, and controlled by the people. The economy remains divided. We cannot call this freedom. And we reiterate that this report is rejected. Thank you very much, Chair.
Kwaza Mkonto.
Thank you, Honorable Chingila.
Gwaza.
No. Thank you, honorable members. Please remain muted unless you're recognized. Is there a speaker on behalf of the EFF?
Yes, Chair.
Honorable member, before you proceed, on my side, your camera feed is not, if not upside down, slightly skewed. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Please proceed.
No, thank you, Chair. House Chairperson, the EFF remains concerned with the rapid rate of deindustrialization, which has been marked by a decline in the steel industry since 2005. The concerns raised by the committee on the need to develop a strategic framework for industrialization must center steel as an anchor industry and make an emphasis on localization of production. Outside of an industrial plan rooted in infrastructure development, where steel is at the center, then the high unemployment rate will never be elevated, and the poverty of South Africans will persist. As the EFF, we are firmly opposed on the deregulation of the special economic zones if it entails backtracking of our transformation objectives. Transformation should never be viewed as a barrier for investment, and foreign direct investment should never be used as a primary route for economic growth. The lack of local innovation in the automotive industry by South Africa, and specifically, as indicated by the Minister in a question for oral reply earlier this year, the lack of any plan to build a local mobile automobile is indicative of a lack of industrial vision in our country. The African Free Trade Agreement becomes meaningless for a South Africa that is massively deindustrialized, declining in manufacturing, and leading nowhere in terms of innovation. The Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition must urgently place emphasis on leading the country out of its industrial decline if there is to be job creation, and leveraging mutually beneficial cooperation and trade relations with alternative markets other than the USA. If we are to cut our dependence on our extractive markets, we reject this report.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Langa.
Thank you very much, Chair. May I request to keep my camera off due to challenges with connectivity.
You're welcome.
Chair, under expenditure in key incentive programs hinders industrial growth and job creation, alongside delays in dispersing funds to SMMEs and weak performance in some of the entities reporting to the DTIC due to ongoing governance and financial control issues. We call for improved monitoring and consequence management to ensure value for money and effective use of public funds. We remain concerned about slow industrialization in rural areas, insufficient support for township enterprises vital for inclusive growth, bureaucratic obstacles hampering entrepreneurship, and delays in implementing the African Continental Free Trade Area, which hampers market expansion. We reiterate the need for greater responsiveness in program implementation, particularly in light of South Africa's high youth unemployment. We echo the committee's concerns about entities with repeated audit findings, irregular expenditure, and internal control weaknesses. It is very much unacceptable that governance failures are tolerated without consequence. We demand firm action against non-compliant entities and executives, strengthening of internal audit units and audit committees across DTIC entities, and periodic forensic audits in high-risk programs. South Africa's economic challenges demand bold, ethical leadership and effective execution. The IFP will continue to play its role in holding the executive accountable while advocating for policies that uplift all communities. In consideration of the concerns that we have raised, the IFP supports the report. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Langa. I now recognize the Honorable Trollip. Honorable Trollip, are you on the platform?
Yes, Chair, I am on the platform.
Are you participating in this debate?
Indeed, I am. I can't get my video to work. Please excuse me.
You're welcome.
In 2024 alone, 1,500 South African entrepreneurs were forced to shut their doors, and the nation barely blinked. These are not just failed businesses, they are dreams deferred, jobs lost, and communities left behind. Many of these businesses were started in townships and rural areas, places still reeling from the legacy of spatial exclusion and economic neglect. Yet their closure speaks volumes. In South Africa today, economic conditions make it nearly impossible to start a business. And even if you manage to do so, sustaining it becomes near impossible task. Red tape kills more jobs than competition ever will. While the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition met its strategic objectives on paper, the lived reality of small businesses tells a different story. Funding remains inaccessible, regulations too complex, and public procurement system skewed in favor of established players. SMMEs are excluded from critical policy platforms like NEDLAC, the National Economic Development and Labour Council, and BUSA, Business Unity South Africa, where big business voices dominate and the concerns of small business owners and entrepreneurs remain unheard. The committee rightly urges the DTIC to ensure that regulatory red tape does not hinder SMMEs from participating in procurement and contributing to reindustrialization. But we must go further. We must strip away the bureaucratic barriers that prevent small businesses from growing, hiring, and thriving. Let us be clear, the future of South Africa's economy does not lie in the boardrooms alone. It lies in backyard workshops, townships, tech startups, and rural cooperatives. If we are serious about inclusive growth, we must give small businesses not just a seat at the table, but the keys to unlock the engine room of job creation. Action SA supports the adoption and implementation of this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Thring.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. The ACDP notes that the 3 strategic priorities of this department focuses on industrialization, transformation, and a capable state, and wish to state that on all of these 3 priorities, the department has failed. Why do we say this? Over the last few decades, we've witnessed the deindustrialization of our economy. On transformation, race-based policies have failed to transform our economy. Instead, Black South Africans face more unemployment, poverty, and inequality than ever before. Our state is anything but capable. Instead, we are faced with rampant crime, corruption, failing SOEs, almost 50% of our municipalities bankrupt, and a debt to GDP of 77%. The ACDP shares the concern of unmet targets in this report, and we agree that in order to address an industrial decline, a holistic strategic framework is needed to tackle the key challenges of energy and water supply, access to skilled labor, and a functional logistic network. The ACDP has championed the promotion of beneficiation, understanding that we are well endowed with an abundance of raw critical minerals, which we continue to export only to purchase finished products at an exponentially increased prices. This export model is counterintuitive. It does not support employment, but rather promotes poverty, inequality, and deindustrialization. In this regard, the ACDP welcomes the establishment of Africa's first jewelry manufacturing precinct at the Gauteng Industrial Development Zone, which promotes local mining, manufacturing, job creation, skills development, and value-added exports. As Kingdom ambassadors, we commit to our country and the continent, and the ACDP broadly supports the goals of the AFCFTA with regards to strengthening regional integration and economic diplomacy and infrastructure development, especially in transport and communication networks. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is there a speaker on behalf of the UDM? If not, is there a speaker on behalf of RISE? Then I move on to the Honorable Hlazo Webster.
Thank you, House Chair. In this report, the Departments of Trade, Industry and Competition again demonstrated its inability to reimagine or invest meaningfully in the township economy. There's all this talk of spatial transformation and inclusive growth, and there has not been a single meaningful shift that has been made to reposition townships as viable industrial and commercial zones. The report itself acknowledges that township economies were never designed for industrial activity, yet the DTIC has continued and continues to treat them as peripheral projects and not priority zones. No clarity was given in this report on how much of the Spatial Industrial Development Fund is allocated to townships. The lack of transparency on this is a clear betrayal of millions of South Africans who remain economically excluded because of apartheid and spatial planning that this department has failed to reverse. As Build One South Africa, we maintain that inclusive growth is impossible without structural investment in townships, not just through handouts, but through infrastructure, market access, and procurement reform. And we'll continue to call for a township economy strategy by this department that has measurable targets and budget allocation and not just political platitudes. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Is there a speaker on behalf of the ATM? Is there a speaker on behalf of Al Jamaa? The MCC? The UIT? Then we move on to the Honorable Mkutu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The ANC supports the tabling and adoption of the report under consideration. Whilst, of course, the DTIC could not achieve 27 of its 109 planned performance targets in the fourth quarter of the 2023-2024 financial year, it did, in fact, improve the achievement of its overall performance targets from 58.2% in the third quarter to 75.2% in the fourth quarter of the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Of course, the financial and non-financial performance of the DTIC in the fourth quarter must be judged by its impact in stimulating economic growth and resolving the triple challenges of inequality, unemployment, and poverty. That is why, Honorable House Chair, we welcome the positive development that by the end of the fourth quarter, the DTIC had spent 99% or 10.6.5 billion of the adjusted total budget of the 10.7 billion for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. This spending at the end of the fourth quarter delivered value for money as it fundamentally strengthened the DTIC's ability to pursue developmental interventions aimed at responding to the socio-economic issues that had placed considerable pressure on the government, especially sluggish economic growth, unemployment, and low real productive investment. The DTIC responded to unemployment crisis in the fourth quarter, amongst other things, by facilitating 20.9 billion rands in investment against a target of 7 billion through industrial financial support. It also, against a target of 5 billion, achieved 5.3 billion in terms of approved projects in relation to enterprises. 4.7 billion against a target of 3 billion by Black industrialists supported by the DTIC group. Honorable Chairperson, there is a consensus amongst members in the committee that, of course, we need an overarching industrial strategy that will be the basis of our spending priorities. And this is why, Honorable Chair, there's been an emphasis in the committee on the need for a new revised APPs to make impactful contributions to inclusive economic growth and job creation. Our view is that the current approach has not been successful in diversifying the economy, transforming the economy, and ensuring sustained growth, and has not been successful in reindustrializing our economy. We therefore, Honorable Chair, need to improve the DTIC's allocations and spending on investment and spatial industrial development, regulation, research, trade, incentives, and transformation and competition, to build local industrial capability by beneficiating our mineral resources locally and developing laws to protect our local industries from the unfair competition of multinational corporations. Honorable Chair, the creative industry, of course, has been part of the debates in the committee that has a potential to be a significant job creator and to boost export earnings. And yet, in the plans of DTIC, there is limited representation of the creative industries as part of the investment initiatives. And we think that, Chair, we've got to invest in the infrastructure of the creative industry, particularly the film production, so that we create our own Hollywood. We can call it Mzansiwood, Chair. We must consider it as a name that I've given it already, so that when it happens, it's on record that I was the one who gave it a name. The committee chair also insisted that the public procurement is a key strategic tool, and I think that it has come up in the debates, that it's a key strategic tool in the socio-economic development, and it's essential for both effective governance and the efficient allocation of public resources, and that it plays a crucial role in enhancing service delivery to the public and contributes to the achievement of broader public policy objectives, such as fostering economic growth, promoting equity, and supporting local industries, particularly, Chair, township economy. I think there's a lot that this instrument of public procurement can do to stimulate economic development and economic activity in the township economy, and to ensure that it capacitates and creates value in the circulation in relation to the local economy. I do want to, Chair, to probably make the point that, of course, the issue of triple BE, as has been commented on by our colleagues, has in some instances been used as an instrument to benefit a narrow political elite that is associated with the executive. And I don't think that it's a reason enough, Chair, to throw the baby away with the water, and to make the point that BE has not, in fact, intervened in the structural inequalities of our economy, and to create a situation where Black South Africans are able to participate in the productive sectors of our economy, because, Chair, the private sector and the markets will not willingly open up and integrate those that have been previously disadvantaged in our economy. And therefore, the interventions such as the triple BE are quite critical, Chair, in ensuring that, Honorable Chair, in ensuring that we force the hand of the private sector in the market to integrate and to reflect the demographics of our country. More precisely, to integrate youth and women who are in fact the face of poverty in our country. I think,
Thank
Chair,
you, Honourable Member.
we support the report, Chair. Thank you very much. I know BE, you don't like it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mzansiwood, yeah, I think some members will be ready to move there. Honourable members, that concludes this debate. I'm going to hand over to the Honourable Labuschagne to chair the debate of the last order of the day.
Thank you very much, Honourable Werner. We shall now proceed to the last order, which is the consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Transport on 2024-2025 second quarter expenditure of Department of Transport. The Honourable SD Salomolela.
Honourable House Chair, Honourable Labuschagne, Honourable members on the platform, colleagues, friends, compatriots, allow me to greet you this morning. Honourable House Chair, the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa governs the committee, governs the committee's primary mission with regard to its monitoring and legislative duties as public representative. Legislation referred to it must be taken into consideration, as must any subject referred to it, in accordance with the Constitution and the National Assembly rules. In accordance with its mandate, it must also reply to issues that the government refers to it. The committee is also tasked with reviewing the department and the entity's annual performance plans, strategic plans, and budget that are part of the transport portfolio. Honorable House Chair, the African National Congress, leading the Government of National Unity, supports the Portfolio Committee on Transport on the 2024-2025 quarter financial report of the Department of Transport. This is because by the end of the second quarter, the department had spent 39.9 billion, which is approximately 49.5% of the total 80.6 billion in rents allocated to it for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Honorable House Chair, this shows that the spending has a lag in spending of 1.1 billion, which is 2.7% behind expectation. Transfers and subsidies were the two major areas of underspending. This came mostly from the tax recapitalization program and deferred conditional grant transfer payments and transfer to the Road Traffic Improvement Agency, popularly Honorable House Chair, known as RTIA, for the national rollout of the administrative adjudication of road traffic offences, popularly known as ARDO. We must also remember that the department spent 280.4 million in rents, which represent 48.2% on the compensation of employees or COE out of the budget of 571.6 million for the financial year under review. The financial expenditure was at 1.3 million, which represented 0.5% less than anticipated. This result, Honorable House Chair, was mostly caused by the recently vacated positions in the department, and according to the Department of Public Service and Administration, Circular 49 of 2023, authorization is required for the fill of new and empty positions in order to adhere to cost containment measures which were introduced in line with the national treasuries. We believe, Honorable House Chair, that the second quarter expenditure is of vital importance as we need to provide fiscal expansion to our programs like administration, integrated transport planning, rail transport, road transport, civil aviation, transport, maritime transport, public transport. Honorable House Chair, the committee will continue to monitor the performance of the department in terms of this budget and programs, and I so submit. I thank you.
Honorable Dr. C. Hansinger.
Thank you, House Chair. The 7 programs in the transport budget cycle all lie around 50% at this halfway mark assessment, except for public transport at 36%. The others being administration, integrated transport planning, road, rail, maritime, and aviation. Of these, integrated transport planning has spent the highest up to Q2 at 56%. For the 2024-25 financial year, the budget of the department sits at 80.6 billion rand, and of this amount, the department spent 39.9 billion rand, or 49.5%, by the end of the second quarter, a lag in spending of 1.1 billion rand, or 2.7% against what was projected. The deferred conditional grant transfer payments and transfers to the Road Traffic Infringement Agency for the R2 national rollout, as well as taxi recapitalization programs, are cited as the main contributors of underspending in transfers and subsidies. 48.2%, or 280.4 million rand of the department's allocated 571.6 million rand was spent on compensation of employees. As an extension of the Portfolio Committee's oversight and role, we have established and keep record of 16 different areas of concern for which the Portfolio Committee requested quarterly feedback in the form of written reports from the department and entities. Some of these concerns and measures that were agreed upon in November 2024 include the department, together with the DLCA, must submit quarterly reports on how the concerns regarding the card production machine are being addressed, as well as a report on the progress made in finalization and rollout of the proposed new cards. No report has been tabled as yet. The department, together with SANRAL, must submit a report on the agreements entered into and deliverables met concerning the transfer of road maintenance, specifically the Mulatto Corridor, and affected provinces. To date, no report has been received. The department should submit quarterly reports on the progress made towards the prevention of irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure for the department and all entities. Again, to date, no report has been received. To the contrary, over 97 million rand in irregular expenditure with the Railway Safety Regulator has been incurred so far in this 2024-25 financial year. It was agreed upon that these feedback reports should have been tabled with us starting from January this year. We haven't seen any of the 16 ones requested. A closer look to the current budget in road maintenance allocations between provinces and SANRAL reveals that more than 60% goes to the national entity, while they take care of just 8% of our national road network. Provinces look after 273,000 kilometers, or 92% of our national road network. Provinces combinedly receive only 39% of the total budget. This shift in short budgeting of our provinces and municipalities started 10 years ago and has to be turned around. Together, municipalities and provinces look after 94% of our national road network, paved and unpaved, yet for the 6% of total roads which SANRAL looks after, they receive over 60% of the national road maintenance budget allocation. And this is not acceptable. Given the tremendous pressure that our road network has to bear, it is encouraging that the following progress have and could be recorded. 4,622 kilometers of road has been upgraded, over 832,000 square meters have been rehabilitated, more than 706,000 square meters have been surface has been resealed, while nearly 700 kilometers have been regraded. With an agenda aligned to job creation and economic growth, it is encouraging to work with colleagues in the Transport Portfolio Committee who, in general, want transport to succeed. And the DA supports this report. Ndiyabulela ngexesha enendiphe lona. Ek dankie.
A member of the MK? Is there a member of the MK? Then we move on.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, you might proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the Department of Transport cannot be led by people who do not understand that transport is the lifeblood of this country and this economy. However, this is South Africa, and somehow the Department of Transport is led by people who do not understand this. Chair, Umkhonto weSizwe Party rises today not to merely express concern, but to sound the alarm. Transport is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. It is the engine that drives trade, connects communities, fuels economic development, and redresses the spatial injustices of our painful past. For a country like South Africa, with our vast terrain and regional potential, transport should be a national asset that unites and uplifts. Yet our government wants to privatize this strategic national asset. What we are witnessing from the Department of Transport, Chair, is not leadership. It's not planning. It's not transformation. It's just plain chaos. Chairperson, the department's expenditure report reveals a dysfunctional pattern of both underspending and overspending, signs of financial recklessness and managerial decay. However, how can we entrust national development to a department that cannot even execute its own budget responsibly? The so-called savings opportunity from the Public Transport Network grant is a slap in the face to millions of working-class South Africans who rely on broken and unreliable transit systems. Let us speak plainly, Chair. Ria Vaya in Johannesburg is an absolute and a complete failure. Incomplete routes, poor integration, and degraded service continue to entrench spatial apartheid. And instead of fixing it, the department siphoned off funds for undisclosed other priorities. We demand answers. Chairperson, 1 billion in underspending while commuters walk kilometers to reach their destinations. This is not a budgeting issue. This is a human rights issue. And then we are told that the integrated transport planning program described by the department itself as its worst performer was the recipient of overspending. How? This is a contradiction that is so glaring, it cannot be explained away. It is misgovernance, plain and simple. Worse still is the reckless transfer of funds from Sanral to the deeply compromised DLCA. This despite public admissions that the DLCA blatantly disregarded directives and mismanaged a critical procurement process. Why reward failure? Why reward dysfunction? Chairperson, this report is more than numbers. It's a mirror reflecting institutional rot and poor decision-making in the heart of the department that is tasked with connecting this nation. MK Party does not accept this. We will not rubber stamp incompetence. We reject this report, not out of political convenience, but out of our duty to the people of South Africa. Because South Africans deserve a transport system that works, not broken buses, not ghost trains, not empty promises. We demand accountability. We demand reform. We demand better. We reject mediocrity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next speaker of the EFF is Honorable M.B. Blosay.
Thank you very much, Chair. Now, greetings to you and honorable members. As the EFF, we rise today to firmly reject the Q2 report of the Department of Transport. This report is not a reflection of progress. It's a paper trail of failure, indifference, and deliberate neglect. This report is a reflection of a department that has no urgency, no vision, and no intention of transforming the transport system to serve the majority of our people. This report just exposes a bureaucratic mess where underspending, delays, and corruption are just the order of the day. Let us begin with the shameful state of our minibus taxi industry. The department has completely failed to scrap thousands of unroadworthy taxis that continue to transport our people like animals. These are vehicles with no brakes and broken doors. These taxis are not just unfit, Chair. They are dead traps. It's a Sobonani Matunini kind of vibes. The department's failure to aggressively enforce the taxi recapitalization program is killing our people on the roads, and no one is held accountable. Now, looking at the scholar transport program, it's just an embarrassment. In many provinces, learners are still walking long distances to school and crossing rivers like animals, all because this department cannot provide a basic, safe, and reliable scholar transport system. The less we say about Transnet, the better. Quarter after quarter, Transnet fails to meet its freight, rail, and port targets. Instead of a recovery strategy, we get glossy presentations with no timelines, no accountability, and no urgency. Ports are congested, exports are delayed, rail infrastructure is stolen and vandalized daily. This is no longer just incompetence, Chair. It is economic sabotage. Chairperson, we cannot talk about economic growth when our people cannot move safely and affordably across the country. The working class in Khayelitsha, Tembisa, Giyani, Maheng, and many other municipalities wake up around 4 a.m. just to reach work because this department fails to build reliable and an integrated public transport system. It's about to get worse now that this government wants to increase the fuel levy. The cost of transportation for our people is going to increase rapidly while their salaries remain the same. But this department continues to fail to subsidize our people for transportation. As the EFF, we reject this report. We refuse to be complicit in legitimizing failure. We stand for our people, not for tenders, not for privatization, and definitely not for mediocrity. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is from the IFP, Honorable Sitole.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. The IFP notes the Department of Transport under expenditure of 1 billion in the second quarter of 2024-2025. While the demand-driven nature of the tax recapitalization program may explain part of the delay, this does not excuse poor planning and delay implementation across key programs, including the public transport network grants and goods and services spending. We are particularly concerned about unmet targets, underspending in integrated transport planning, maritime and administration programs, and the lack of clear collective roadmap. In a country where transport infrastructure underpins economic activity, inefficiency in spending weekend services delivery, public confidence and economic growth. The IFP support the committee recommendation that the minister ensure fully transparent through detailed report of environments, unpaid for invoices, bursary outcomes, and corruption cases. Consequences management must be implemented where failures have occurred. Transport is not just a department, it is a lifeline. The IFP agents accountability and decisive actions to ensure delivery meets the expectation of the South African people. In light of this, we have raised the IFP to support the report. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is from the PA, Honorable Tahuddin.
Thank you very much, Chair. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Chair, the Patriotic Alliance acknowledges the report on the Portfolio Committee of Transport regarding the second quarter expenditures of the Department of Transport for the 2024-2025 financial year. The Department of Transport plays a critical role in ensuring efficient, equitable and sustainable mobility for all South Africans. However, the expenditure patterns reflects in this report raises concerns about fiscal discipline, transparency and performance management. We call upon the department to provide a clear explanation, for instance, of under or overspending in the administration, integrated transport planning and maritime programs. The department must outline whether remedial action plans have been developed to address these shortcomings sustainably. Slow processing of invoices continues to impact service delivery and operational efficiency. The department must say if corrective measures have been implemented to ensure that delayed payments do not persist. A report of consequence management for cases where invoices were not settled within 30 days period must be made available to Parliament. We also urge the department to provide a detailed account of bursary allocations, including how recipients are integrated into department through internship or employment opportunities. Corruption remains an implement progress. The department must submit a written report outlining the action taken to address report corruption cases and how they plan to finalize unresolved incidents from the second quarter. We remain steadfast in our commitment to sound financial governance, improve oversight, and the delivery of effective transport services that serve the needs of all South Africans. As the Patriotic Alliance, we support the recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is from the Freedom Front Plus, Honorable van Staden.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the Freedom Front Plus take note with serious concern that an amount of 133 million was shifted from SANRAL non-toll network to fund the new driving license card machine. This was to honor the contract for the procurement of a new machine in the 24-25 financial year. However, we must take note that the current machine broke down more than 159 times and repair costs over the past 5 years have costed 21 million. Due to the machine breaking down in February this year again, the backlog in the issuing of driver's license cards has risen to 747,000. This is the number of cards that still need to be printed, but it's not so easy to procure a new machine due to the Auditor General's findings earlier this year, but the tender process for 898 million in the procurement of a new machine was unlawful. A long-term solution is needed to curb this problem, and this problem needs to be eradicated and fast. This report also highlights that the delays with the issuing of driving licenses and the target number of licenses processed within the proposed time frame were not reasonable when considering the current time frame it takes to issue and deliver these cards. In the matter of corruption within the department responses to the committee on the 26th of November last year on page 2 indicated that the investigations were outsourced to UBAC Forensic and KPMG and that the remaining 3% will be finalized at the end of March this year. This report also recommends that the department should provide the committee with a written report on how it dealt with reported incidents of corruption and how it plans to deal with the remaining incidents that were still outstanding during the second quarter. Oor die aangeleenthede rakende vakante poste in die departement is dit noodsaaklik dat hierdie probleem so gou as moontlik opgelos word om te verseker dat dienslewering aan die publiek nie agterweë gelaat word nie. Wat die VF+ bekommerd maak is dat daar sedert Augustus verlede jaar 124 vakante poste was. En daar was in die komitee meegedeel dat die departement se strukture en funksies hersien sou word en dat die nodige prosesse in plek gestel sou word om aandag hieraan te gee. Teen die einde van die derde kwartaal was daar nog 120 vakante poste gewees. Die vertraging in die betaling van fakture binne 30 dae was 'n herhalende kwessie.
The time is expired.
Thank you, Chair.
You can finish your sentence.
Was 'n herhalende kwessie weens die onbeskikbaarheid van personeel om hierdie fakture te verwerk. Die VF+ ondersteun die verslag. Dankie, voorsitter.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is from Action SA, Honorable Corby.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Greetings outstretched to you and the rest of South Africa that's joining us online. Honorable House Chair, the department was allocated a total of 80.6 billion for the year and had spent 49.5% of it by the end of the second quarter. While this might seem reasonable, it reflects a lag of 1.1 billion with significant underspending in key programs such as public transport, civil aviation, and maritime transport. Underspending by department means delayed services and more inefficient transport. We note with concern that the taxi recapitalization program remains underspent despite its critical role in modernizing our minibus taxi fleet. The delays in transferring funds, complex qualification criteria continue to hinder this program's uptake. We must ask as Action SA that when will we really see meaningful empowerment and safety improvements in this sector? Furthermore, the Integrated Transport Planning Program underperformed both financially and against its targets. Vacancies, invoice processing delays, and unfinished policies continue to cripple performance. Honorable House Chair, it's time for the department to move from plans to action. As Action SA, we believe that when people can move efficiently, affordably, and safely, the economy thrives. This department needs to work to ensure that this happens. We welcome the committee's firm recommendations, particularly the call for written reports on violence, corruption resolution, and bursary integration. These must not be box-ticking exercises. Accountability must be enforced. Let us ensure that every rand is used to build the safe, integrated, and affordable transport system that South Africans deserve. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Is there a speaker for the ACDP?
No declaration, thank you.
Thank you. Speaker for the UDM? Speaker for Rise Mzansi? The ATM? A speaker for Al Jamaa? Speaker for the NCC? Speaker for the UAT? That brings us to the speaker for the ANC, Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My name is Ndombo Vuyongopani. I'm standing in for Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you.
Honorable Chair and members, the African National Congress, ANC, leading the government of national unity, understands the importance of transport. Connecting communities, promoting economic progress, and permitting trade all depend on transport. It makes it possible for people and living and things to move, which is necessary for day-to-day living, corporate activities and international connectivity, access to employment, healthcare, education, and other essential services can all be improved by effective transportation systems, which will ultimately raise the people's quality of life. We support the Transport 2024-25 second quarter expenditure of the Department of Transport. With regards to the administration program, The expected 256 million, the administration program spent 265.6 million of its allocation, resulting in accelerated spending of 3.7%. When it came to integrated transport planning, the department, out of its projected 45.1 million, the department spent 53.9 million, that is 56.6%. All this was not anticipated. The invoices from the prior fiscal year that were paid in the current financial year, the fiscal year, as well as goods and services related to advertising, venues, facilities, were primary causes of this. The increased cost was also a result of transfers and subsidies, including leave gratuity given to departing departmental employees. This program was the worst performing program for the reviewed quarter, despite the excessive spending in relation to goals to be met. Honorable Chair and members, let us be reminded that the rail transport program, out of predicted 9.7 billion, the department spent 9.7 billion, that is 49.9% of its allotment. The initiative spent 11.3 million, that is 0.1% less than anticipated. This was mostly due to goods and services for consultants, especially on the National Rail Master Plan and the establishment of Transport Economic Regulator, against the predicted spending of 23.4 billion. The road transport program had already spent 23.4 billion, that is 53.4% of its allocation by the end of the second quarter, 24-25. The initiative spent 80.9 million, that is, can say 0.3% less than anticipated. This resulted from RTIA transfers and subsidies for the ARTO nationwide rollout that were put on hold because of implementation delays. Another factor contributing to the delayed spending was the expenditure on goods and services, specifically the consultants for the decade of action for road safety. Against a budget given was 249.8 million, the department spent 235 million. This means that 14.9 million, that is 6% less, was spent than expected. The unpaid balance for waterkeeping services and national aviation transport strategy was a major factor. Maritime spending exceeded the budget by 2.2 million, as the department spent 95.5 million of its allocation by the end of the period under review. Compensation of employees was the primary responsibility for the spending because of recent appointments. Spending exceeded budget by 2.2 million. On public transport, the department spent 95.5 million of its allocation by the end of the period under review, compared to the predicted 93.3 million. The committee will keep an eye on the department's performance in relation to this budget and its plans. I thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the debate and the business of this virtual mini-plenary session. The mini-plenary will now rise.